What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we all witnessed the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk 2077, and CD Projekt Red's been pretty much getting beaten down ever since then, with a bunch of lawsuits still coming up. And it doesn't look like things are going to be getting any easier for them, as now they have been hacked with a ransom note left in place of several documents, source code, all this stuff being stolen, and we'll go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a new game heading to the Switch, the Xbox Series X, and the PS5. And yeah, I think it's about time this one happened. And we are also going to be taking a look at some new games heading to the Nintendo Switch online service for the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo collection, and you're going to want to see this one. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Bloodborne, which is a game that I am actually surprised right now that Sony has done nothing with for the PS5. I mean, really, they could have done a patch that would have unlocked the frame rate, maybe made it 60 frames per second, smoothed out the issue that we run into with the frame pacing, made it look better. A lot of people really enjoy this game. I'm just surprised Sony hasn't capitalized on the extra power of the PS5 to make this game that much better. But, as I said before, if the companies won't do it, the fans will. In fact, there was a patch that was unofficial that was checked out by Digital Foundry last year that removed that cap and did its best to make it a solid 60 frames per second. There were times where it would dip down in the Digital Foundry analysis, but it was still really cool to see Bloodborne at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4. And if we go over here to Eurogamer, we can see it says, back in October 2020, McDonald's said he would give Sony a chance to update From Software's masterpiece to run at 60 frames per second first. That hasn't happened, so McDonald has gone ahead and released his own, and you would need a hacked or modified PlayStation 4 in order to use this patch, but it does make the game seem much more playable that way, and I do hope at some point in the future Sony realizes, you know what, maybe we should do a patch for this game for the PS5. They could sell it all over again, I'm sure, on the PlayStation Store if they did that, but for now, you would need a hacked PS4 to get 60 frames per second out of Bloodborne. Also, we do have Persona 5 Strikers coming up in the next few weeks here at the end of this month, and review embargoes did lift yesterday. We have a score on it from Metacritic, which is hovering around an 85. On OpenCritic, it's sitting around an 83, and a lot of people really seem to enjoy this game. It did already come out last year in Japan, so I feel like most of us have already at least checked the game out enough. There was even a demo on the eShop that was, yes, in full Japanese, but you could still go through it and get an idea as to how the game would play. I think most of us are just ready for this one to finally come out in the West here. And interestingly enough, they do have a digital deluxe version that comes out 4 days before the advertised release date, which tells me that that digital deluxe version is probably when the game could have come out, like just across the board, but they figure, hey, we'll sell a couple extra bucks on top for an early ticket, quote unquote. But either way, I'll be checking this one out later on this month, see how things go with Persona 5 Strikers, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the podcast the weekend it comes out. Oh, and you know what? Take-Two did have their financial briefing and took some questions from investors, but you guys got to stop buying GTA 5. This game is out of control right now. They gave us some new numbers for it, and check this one out here. It says GTA 5 has sold 140 million copies to date, with 2020 giving the game its best year for sales since its original launch all the way back in 2013. This game selling 140 million copies and is about to grace 3 generations of consoles. The PS3, the PS4, the PS5, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and the Series X. Why would they release GTA 6 at this point? The game sold, apparently, almost 20 million copies in 2020. That is absurd for a 7-year-old game. That shouldn't happen. And I know they're going to take their time with GTA 6 because there's no rush, but what if we got maybe something else from Grand Theft Auto, like a remaster or a remake? Because that was a question that was asked at this investors briefing, which was a very good question because those are rumors going around. And interestingly enough, some of the representatives from Take-Two, they didn't seem too surprised by the question, even encouraged and happy that it was asked. So who knows, maybe we could see a little collection of like Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas all at once on one disc. That would be really, really cool to have that come out for the PS5 or the Series X. We'll keep an eye on this one. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see that, and hopefully someday we'll see GTA 6, but if GTA 5 is still selling 20 million copies a year, why would you? And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with CD Projekt Red and this massive breach that took place with their servers and a ransom note written, I guess, in Notepad that is an interesting read. Let's start here with the announcement that CD Projekt Red did put out on Twitter. They say, yesterday we discovered that we have become a victim of a targeted cyber attack, due to which some of our internal systems have been compromised. An unidentified actor gained unauthorized access to our internal network, collected certain data belonging to CD Projekt Capital Group, and left a ransom note, the content of which we released to the public. Although some devices in our network have been encrypted, our backups remain intact. We have already secured our IT infrastructure and begun restoring the data. We will not give in to demands nor negotiate with the actor, being aware that this may eventually lead to the release of the compromised data. We are taking necessary steps to mitigate the consequences of such a release, in particular by approaching any parties that may be affected due to the breach. We are still investigating the incident. However, at this time, we can confirm that to our best knowledge, the compromised systems did not contain any personal data of our players or users of our services. So let's go over here and take a look at this ransom note. It reads, hello CD Projekt. This is with like 20 exclamation points. You have been epically pwned. Okay, we have dumped full copies of the source codes from your Perforce server for Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, Gwent, and the unreleased version of Witcher 3. It's interesting. We have also dumped all of your documents relating to accounting, administration, legal, HR, investor relations, and more. Also, we have encrypted all of your servers, but we understand that you can most likely recover from backups. If we will not come to an agreement, then your source codes will be sold or leaked online, and your documents will be sent to our contacts in gaming journalism. They go on with some choice language, talk about their public image and all of these different things with stock prices. Sure, okay, that works. You have 48 hours to contact us. First of all, that may have been one of the worst ransom notes I've ever seen. Like, seriously, that is the first line you come up with. You've been epically pwned. That sounds like someone's like parents trying to fit in with the group of gamers hanging out in their living room playing Xbox at the time, right? That's how that strikes me. It's like a group of people are trying to sound like gamers, but they're doing a very bad job of being subtle about it. So I almost feel like this was spur of the moment, maybe. Maybe they didn't realize, oh wow, this password that we fished actually worked. All right, Larry, come up with a quick ransom note. And that's the best they could do, I guess. There's also no demand here for money or anything, whereas with Capcom, we knew it was like $15 million or something like that in Bitcoin. So interesting strategy here for the ransom note. I will say that one. Now, CD Projekt Red did follow up saying, to our ex-employees, as of this moment, we don't possess evidence that any of your personal data was accessed. However, we would still recommend caution, i.e. enabling fraud alerts. If you have questions, please write to our privacy team. And Jason Schreier also mentioned that I've seen speculation that CDPR is faking this, but employees tell me they're taking it very seriously. The company told staff they'll need to take several specific precautions to protect their identities and prevent fraud. It's going to be a real hassle for many of them. The idea that they would fake this and all this, that is a little outlandish. I will say at least that one. And hearing that they are going around talking to employees internally about getting things like fraud alerts set up and check your bank statements and your credit cards and all these different things. That, again, I see that as very, very unlikely. I think the idea was, oh, they're looking to garner sympathy based on how things went with Cyberpunk. And this is something that is going to be very frustrating for them to deal with on top of the situation with Cyberpunk, which then extends to court cases and lawsuits and all of this. Oh yeah, and somebody managed to get into our servers and steal a bunch of code, which if they have source code for all of their games, that will most likely leak online, because we saw what happened with Capcom where they said, no, we're not going to negotiate or pay you guys money. We found out everything that Capcom is looking to release over the next like 5 years. Like everything they were going to surprise us with, like Ghosts and Goblins, and then we had all of the different Resident Evil stuff, Street Fighter 6. Yeah, so I expect this to probably end up the way that did, where they just kind of drop chunks of data online, which the most damaging stuff, to be honest, for CD Projekt would probably be like the financial stuff. I don't really know if they have any big games planned outside of this Witcher 3 thing. So yeah, not great there, obviously, for them to have to deal with. Hopefully the correct authorities can identify and figure all this out, but I'll keep you guys up to date on all of this as the investigation goes forward. Next up, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch Online games that were announced. And it wasn't very good. Let's just go over to the tweet here. Nintendo put this out last night where they say 4 more titles will be added to the NES and SNES Nintendo Switch Online Collection on February 17th, so next week. Super Nintendo would be Doomsday Warrior, Psycho Dream, Prehistoric Man, and then on the NES we have Fire and Ice. Out of those games, Prehistoric Man is probably the best one. It was close though, could have been bad. They may have accidentally announced Earthbound. Instead, we got whatever Doomsday Warrior is. And you know what, it is weird when Nintendo has these months because remember, we used to be really excited when they would announce games for the Nintendo Switch Online service, and they've had these months where they just did all of these announcements for Donkey Kong, and that was really cool, right? To get the first one, the second one, the third one is great, throw all those on there. Then you get this month and it's just like, what happened? And I see a lot of people ask for these third-party games like Chrono Trigger, or like that's something that Square is going to probably sell on the Switch on their own. Like it'll just be its own thing that gets listed if they want to do that because there's too much money to make there as opposed to putting it on the online service. That's something Nintendo will be dealing with going forward the way they have this set up. Really what they need to do here, if these are the kind of announcements they're going to be making for the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo and people just, are going to forget about them. The idea here's to drive the overall online service subscription, and this is just one of the benefits. They really have to think about injecting another system here. And obviously Game Boy Advance would be preferred because N64, I still think is something we'll have to wait a little longer for, and GameCube might just be a next-gen thing at this point. So Game Boy Advance, bring that in. The library is huge there, and that would, of course, work to supplement the Super Nintendo and Nintendo games and keep us guessing every month. Or I guess we can have, let's see, Psycho Dream. Next up, let's talk about Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. This came out a couple of months ago on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, but it didn't come out on the Switch, which was a bit odd because we were doing like a preview event and stuff for it, and that was the question that kept coming up. What about the Switch version? What about like the PS5 or the Series X or any of that? They weren't able to answer any of those questions because it wasn't planned. But now it looks like they will be showing up March 12th. And there is some info to go over here, which includes upgrade paths if you already own the game on the PS4 or the Xbox One, as well as a PC version. So to start, yes, it will be on the Switch as well as the PS5 and the Series X March 12th. The Switch version will be $40, whereas the PS5 and the Series X versions will be $60. If you already own the game on the PS4 or the Xbox One currently, it will be a free upgrade path for you. If you want to get it on PC, currently it's set up for battle.net. Now it is interesting that there's a $20 price difference here with the Switch being the cheaper version at $40, but as they say, the $60 version for the PS5 and the Series X will give you access to like 4K resolution, and it'll also have faster load times. Basically, the game will just run and look a lot better on the PS5 and the Series X, as we would expect. But you know what? That Switch version at $40 with the hybrid portable nature is compelling. That's actually really cool to see that. And the Crash Insane trilogy sold pretty well on the Switch overall. So I actually think it's going to do pretty well there on the Switch, but they should have had it ready to go for the holidays. It is a missed opportunity, but clearly they didn't even have like the PS5 or the Series X version ready. And I think a lot of that had to do with what was going on at the time, them trying to get the game out. And they basically had to pick, okay, where's the platform we can get it to? And that happened to be the PS4 and the Xbox One. They didn't even try to do a PC version then. And speaking of that PC version, it doesn't look like it'll be ready until later on this year, specifically on battle.net. So for now, look forward to it on the PS5, the Xbox Series X, or the Switch March 12th. And if you already own it, look for a free upgrade that day. And in our last bit of news, I want to quickly turn your attention to a big sale that is currently happening right now on the Xbox console. And there are a lot of games. And what I'm going to do is leave a link down below to True Achievements, who went through and sorted them in a very nice, well-formatted list. But there were 2 games that I wanted to point out here. And yes, there are a lot of the basics like the Call of Duties, Assassin's Creeds, Borderlands, so on. But I want to point out Blue Dragon. It's $5, and if you've never played it, it is a more simplistic RPG, but it was all done up, looked really good. Akira Toriyama contributed quite a bit to it, so I did like the look of the game, and the overall play of it was fine for like the earlier days of the Xbox 360. But the one game that I really hope more and more people try out here, it's just over $6. I think it's worth every penny. That's Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is like $6.24 or something right now on the Xbox store. It is something that you can play backwards compatible on your Xbox Series X, so that means auto HDR and all this stuff should be enabled, and it still looks really, really good. And I think it's a game that's completely worth playing, and I would love to see Microsoft pursue that franchise again and try to create another one. So those are my 2 recommendations now for games you may have missed out on, and trust me, I'm sure there's a lot of people who missed out on Lost Odyssey, but if you have played it, let me know down below what you think of the game, and of course, if you're going through this list, leave some recommendations for other people down in the comments. And before we head over to the comment of the day, let's take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday afternoon where I asked, will E3 be able to survive as a digital-only event going forward? 30% of you said yes, big publishers will still participate, whereas 70% of you said no, publishers and developers wouldn't need E3 then. And I have to agree, I don't think they would, especially since going through the proposal a little bit more, it appears that one of the requirements is like a 6-figure sum. Why would you pay this E3 company, like doing a live stream, like couple $100,000 to participate in something you could just do yourself and probably still get a lot of hype around it? If Square Enix was gonna announce Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, do they need to put it on an E3 live stream, or can they just go live on Twitch or YouTube one night? Hey, we're gonna announce this Final Fantasy VII stuff. You probably wanna be there. Everyone's just gonna show up and then it's gonna trend on Twitter anyway. So I don't really see the benefit of doing that. In fact, all I see is them handing over hundreds of thousands of dollars for some reason. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Vice saying, I remember Microsoft said that the only thing that's keeping Master Chief out of Smash is an invitation. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said Master Chief had 0% chance of being in Smash Bros. I think a lot of it has to do with the number of characters that have found their way into Smash that you would not expect or was joked about. I know Ridley was one, but we've gone off the rails. Now, I mean, Steve is in Smash Bros. Anyone can get in, but like Master Chief still has to be on a Nintendo platform. I thought that was one of the rules. It's like the character has to at least have been a part of a game that's on a Nintendo system. Halo was almost on the DS, I believe, at one point. I don't know if you can count that, but maybe Microsoft puts a game on the Switch, and then all of a sudden in that same presentation, oh yeah, Master Chief is joining the fight. It's gonna be part of Smash Brothers. And I do wonder, the big Smash announcements that could end out this final expansion pass for the different fighters, Master Chief's up there. That's another one that would set the internet on fire. That, or like Sora, for example, I think are some of the big ones. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's CD Projekt Red and this massive breach into their servers with a ransom note being left. What do you make of that ransom note exactly? About that one down below. And then also, what do you think about the Nintendo Switch online games and Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time now going to the Switch and the PS5 and the Series X? Were you waiting for that Switch announcement and now you're gonna be picking it up? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.